glad to welcome you to Manifested e-learning platform. Today we continue the subject governance and compliance audit. In this lesson we're going to study understanding the entity and its environment. By the end of this lesson we should be able to explain why it's important for the auditors to understand the entity that is being audited and its environment. We should also be able to analyze some of the key aspects to understanding the entity and its environment, which is a foundational and continuous process throughout the planning phase of a governance and compliance audit, because it provides the necessary context to identify and assess risks, to define the audit scope, and also to design effective audit procedures. And this phase or these steps goes beyond a simple review of documents, but it also involves gaining a deep and holistic view of the organization that is being audited. So why is it important? Importance. Why is it crucial? Why is it important for an auditor to understand the entity and its environment? Number one is for the purposes of risk assessment. Risk assessment. It's not possible to properly assess the risk before understanding. It's not possible to understand or to assess risk without an in-depth understanding of the entity, because this understanding allows the auditor to identify and assess the risks of material non-compliance. An example could be, say, a company operating in a highly regulated industry like finance or health care, which faces different and more significant compliance risks than one in a less regulated sector. So to carry out proper risk assessment, the auditor must understand the entity and its environment. The second reason is so as to have a tailored audit plan. Tailored audit plan. Tailored audit plan. Because generic audit plans are often ineffective. So by understanding the entity's unique characteristics, the auditor can tailor the audit plan to focus on the most relevant and risk areas. 3. Professional judgment. Professional judgment. Now this understanding, the understanding of the entity and its environment, provides a frame of reference for exercising professional judgment throughout the audit. And it also helps the auditor to interpret evidence, to evaluate findings, and also form an informed opinion. That is why it's important to understand the entity and its environment. The fourth reason is effective communication. Effective communication. Now, how is effective communication an important aspect? It's important because candidates' knowledge of the entity and its environment facilitates most effective communication with management and other stakeholders. It also enables the auditor to speak their language, and also present findings in a way that is relevant and actionable. The auditor can only speak the language of the client only after getting proper understanding of the entity and its environment. Now we are discussing candidate reasons why it's important. We outlined 4 reasons. Now let's move to analyze some of the key aspects of this understanding. One aspect is the entity's operations and business model. To understand the entity and this environment, the auditor can do so by looking at the operations and the business model of the entity. The entities, operations, and business model. A very important aspect of understanding the entity. What are the products, the services, what services does the entity provide? What is its business model? What are the processes? How does the organization operate? What are its key business processes? Is it procurement? Is it sales? Is it IT? What are its key or core operations? What is the business model? Is it centralized? Is it decentralized? What is the organizational structure? How is the entity structured? Is it centralized or decentralized? What are the reporting lines and responsibilities? That is one aspect of understanding this entity. Another way to understand an entity is by checking the competitive landscape, the industry and competitive landscape. Okay? The competition or the industry in which the organization operates, industry and competitive landscape. All right? What are the industry trends? What are the key trends? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities in the industry? Could there be technological advancements or market shifts? You look at also the competition. Who is the main competitors? Who are the main competitors? And what is the entity's position in the market? You may also consider external factors. How do broader economic, social, and political factors affect the organization? That can help you understand the entity. The third aspect of understanding the entity is legal and regulatory environment. Look at the legal and regulatory environment in which the organization operates. There is always a legal and regulatory environment, applicable frameworks. What are the specific laws, regulations, and industry standards that govern the entity's operations? Because this is a core element of a compliance audit. You cannot carry out a compliance audit without understanding the legal and regulatory environment. You may also check what is the level of regulatory scrutiny that has been there before. Are there any impending changes to regulations that could impact the organization? So that's another way of understanding an entity. The fourth way is governance and internal control environment. Governance and internal control environment. Look at the governance structure. How is the company governed? What is the role of the board of directors? What is the role of audit committee? What is the role of management? We also consider internal controls. What is the entity's system of internal controls and how mature and effective is it? You may also carry out a risk assessment process. How does the entity identify, assess, and also manage its own risks? Does it have a formal enterprise risk management program? And again, what is the tone at the top? What is the organization's culture regarding ethics, regarding integrity and compliance? Understand? Yes. So these are key aspects of understanding the entity and its environment. The entity that is being audited and its environment. So there are various ways to gain this understanding. The auditor may carry out preliminary research by reviewing the company's website, the annual reports, the corporate statements, and other public filings. The auditor may also carry out interviews. The auditor can conduct interviews with senior management, with process owners, with the key personnel, and so on. There could also be review of internal documents. The auditor may examine the company's internal documents such as the strategic plans, documents such as risk registers, internal audit reports, as well as policy and procedure manuals. Another way to carry out this, getting this understanding is just reading industry publications, policy, and also analyst reports, news articles, just to stay informed about the entity's environment. The auditor may also leverage on previous audits. If available, the auditor should review prior audit reports and management letters to understand past issues and the entity's response to such issues. So that is all, candidates, for today's lesson on understanding the entity and its environment. In this lesson, we discuss 4 reasons why understanding this environment is important. We've also discussed the aspects of understanding the entity and its environment. That is the entity's operations and business model, the industry and competitive landscape. We have the legal and regulatory environment, and also governance and internal control environment. Thank you for attending the lesson. We'll meet in our next session where we continue to discuss issues related to governance and compliance audits. Bye-bye.